Alright guys, this is Budget EDCer here, and this is going to be my review of the Leatherman PST. This is the first multi-tool that Leatherman ever came out with. It, in my opinion, is one of the best. It came with this leather sheath you see here. Pretty basic, no flash, no zazz, but it's a sheath. It does what it's meant to do. It holds the product. A lot of the sheaths you see out there are probably going to be a whole lot more worn than this one. This one was in mint condition when I found it, so I consider myself very lucky. The belt clip was actually in perfect shape when I got it and was flush against this, but since I was carrying it, and I kind of regret carrying it, I've put a lot of wear on it, but that also just adds character. This has gotten more rounded since I've carried it, and it's just gotten all around used, possibly abused. Uh, it's just a standard belt clip. It's not one of the ones that you can slide down on top of your belt and take off without taking your entire belt off. For some people that might be a problem, but it's never really been a problem for me. It's an annoyance every now and then. I would prefer something like Victorinox did with this Swiss Army knife right here. They made it to where you could just clip it on your belt, but it's not a deal breaker for me because this multi-tool is so cheap compared to the rest of Leatherman's line. Alright, I'm going to get the sheath out of the way and move on to the tool itself. One thing you'll notice is you can't access the tools from the outside. For some of you, that could be a huge problem, and I understand. I completely understand that. It is an issue for me, and that's part of the reason why I've replaced the Leatherman with that Swiss Army knife you just saw in my EDC lineup. Something this multi-tool has going for it right off the bat is right there. You can see Portland, Oregon. This is one of the few, or one of the many that were made in the U.S. I think this one was made in 2002, which is right before they outsourced the Leatherman PST and had it made in China. The way you can tell is that the ones that are made in the U.S., well, look at that, they say USA. The other ones just say Leatherman Tools. This isn't like a lot of the new Leathermans. It doesn't have replaceable cutters. These are just standard built-in. And I don't know if you can see that, but that little notch down at the bottom is dulled quite a bit. That's not rust, by the way. That's wood stain. Strange occurrences happened for that to get on there, but I'd prefer not to go into it. This has just very, very basic tools. You're not going to get everything in one with this package, but you're going to get most of what you would need throughout the day. Now, if you're an electrician or something, you may need something different than this, but while I worked on the chicken farm I used to work on, this served me very well, and I never was in want for anything that this tool didn't have. Unless that it was a hammer, and they don't make multi-tools with hammers on them, so that wasn't even an issue. That's a non-issue. The first thing we're going to look at is this file. As I said before, this tool was in mint condition, so all of those metal filings are from me, as are those. This is a wood/metal file. I really don't know which side is which. The finer side is what I would imagine would be for... Actually, I don't know. I don't know if that would be for wood or metal. But something this one has going for it that some multi-tools don't is the bottom edge is actually machined to where it has some texturing so you can notch wood and stuff. It's really helpful. I've actually used that to make notches in something if I didn't have something to write with. So, it's a very useful thing. Something you'll notice about this tool that may not happen with other multi-tools is if you pull one tool out, they're all going to come out. I think that may just be the age on this one. If I squirted it down with WD-40, it would probably stop. But as of right now, I'm too lazy to do it because this one isn't in my EDC right now. On this side, you've got your standard can opener, which it's adequate, but a better one to show if you want to see the best can opener you can get. It's right there on this Victorinox Super Tinker. It works so much better than this one. But this one still gets the can open, so it all comes down to getting the job done or getting the job done quickly. But that's all personal preference. I really, really like this Phillips head screwdriver. I feel like it's very, very solid. It's three-dimensional, not like some of the Gerber multi-tools you see put out that's basically a flat head with just a little notch sticking out of the side. They, it took up, I would say, the space of another tool that they could put right here because it's so thick. But it was a trade-off that was worth it, in my opinion, because this is one of the most used tools that was on here. For me, at least. Next, you've got what I think is a 3mm flathead screwdriver. Not all that useful, really used it to clean out from under my fingernails, and in that role, it excelled. It worked. It's not what your tools are meant for, it's what you use them for. On this side, we have what most of you are probably wanting to see, and that's the blade. See, on this side, those tools didn't come out. I think that's because those are actually almost stuck down in there, though. I think it's 420 high carbon. It's got a Leatherman tang stamp. It's a clip point blade. It's very, very narrow, if you can see that. It's fairly adequate at holding an edge. I know a lot of companies that heat treat their 420 high carbon better than this. Not to point any fingers at Leatherman or anything, but if you want to see a knife that has a better heat treat on 420 high carbon, it's right there. Buck Vantage Select 420 high carbon, and it's got a Boss heat treatment. So Leatherman could learn a thing or two. They may have. It's been a while since I've bought one of their multi-tools. Last one I had was a Wave, and I sold it. Wasn't impressed in the least, and I understand that's their entry model, but it didn't grab me as anything special. The knife is adequate. Really don't use it for anything because I have more than one knife on me at a time, so if I'm going to my multi-tool, it's a last resort, or if I'm going to it for a blade. On this side, you have a leather punch slash awl, a slightly larger flat-bladed screwdriver, and the large flat-bladed screwdriver. This one fits most flathead screws that you'll encounter. This would fit all the other ones you don't. As I said before, the 3mm really wasn't all that useful to me. And while we're on the subject of things that aren't useful, it's sitting right there. I've never used an awl in my life. Well, not for what their intended purpose was for, at least. I've used it to clean out my nails, again, and it worked. But I could do without it. I really don't know what they could have put on here instead. Maybe a pair of scissors or something. I enjoy multi-tools with scissors. One thing I wouldn't have put on it, though, is a saw. Every time I see a fully serrated sheep's foot blade or a saw on a multi-tool, I just think, well, there's an ounce and a half that could have been put on something else, something useful, something that I, myself, will use. So if you see me review a multi-tool and it has one of those things, I'm probably not going to say many nice things about it. Onto the plier head themselves. It's needle nose up front. Then it gets larger. The notches are very functional. It'll grab a bolt nicely. And this is just an all-around good multi-tool. These have been discontinued for a good while now, so you're probably not going to find one in this good a condition. And this one's not in that great a condition since I've been thumping on it. But if you can find them, they'll run you anywhere from $20 to $80 depending on condition. And if you find one for any lower than that, or around 20, I'd say buy it because this has been an excellent multi-tool. This is Budget EDCer signing off.